All right. Well, anyway, this is my name is Jay Hanna, and I was minding my own business, and I was wandering through a park one day, and there were all these. This looks really cool when it's high def. So if I can get everyone to join Omaha FPV, which is first person view, on Twitter, that would be fantastic because all these videos are all posted there. But here he's racing through all the different. It looks great on my screen. So anyway, remote control everything has been around forever. This is a category called FPV, or first person view, and so you actually fly it by wearing goggles, and you see what the helicopter sees as it flies through the air. So it comes with a camera mounted on the front here, and this antenna transmits the video in real time to your, did you see the crash? It was awesome. To your goggles, right, or your external whatever, so you can set up antennas and have whatever kind of setup that you want to see what's going on. But why I'm here tonight is that this was shipped from Hong Kong with an entirely open source flight controller, and the configuration mechanism is also all open source. So if you're either a C programmer and want to hack on the internals of the flight controller software itself, or if you're a JavaScript programmer and you want to make the UI prettier or cooler or add features to it or whatever, like this one doesn't have a GPS, but like those long distance remote drones, if they lose radio signal, they can be programmed to come home, right? So wherever you took off from, if it goes out 2 miles and it loses radio, it's like, and it'll panic, and it knows the GPS and it'll track back and then land, right? This one does not do this. This one ends up on a roof about 700 yards away from where I was standing at the time, which was problematic and a different story. But anyway, if you're interested in adding more to the open source community for this kind of stuff, that's what I was going to show you tonight. So Omaha FPV on Twitter, if you want to check it out. This is a race event that they did, and the high def video is really pretty amazing. So take a look. So I knew nothing at all about any of this, and I still know very little, but luckily there's lots of people that help me out with it. And I'm going to try to plug it in here. Omaha, yeah, first person view, Omaha FPV. Boody boop. And this came all pre-assembled in Hong Kong, which is nice. It's got the LEDs on the back, and you're supposed to be able to control the colors of the LEDs and make them cycle. When you like throttle up or throttle down, it'll like shift the hue or shift the brightness and all kinds of cool stuff, but none of that stuff's working. It flies great, but the control stuff doesn't work, or the LED stuff doesn't work. So the software that it comes pre-installed with, is that big enough? Is that too small? Is that okay? Is that terrible? It's not letting me increase the font size, so we're going to have to run with this. CleanFlight is the control software, and we're staring at the CleanFlight configurator, it's called. And so if we hit this red connect button after we've plugged in our USB cord into the copter, hopefully it'll connect. And it looks like it's working. And so it has an accelerometer and a gyroscope and a barometer built into this unit. So I don't know why it's so jerky. It's twice this good when I'm not Chromecasting it, but it's still jerky a little bit on the Chromecast. And I thought that was pretty cool for an open source demo. If you want to help them like load 3D models of the different copters, that would really nerd out a bunch of people that are like, that's not my vortex, right? But you can configure everything in this system, including the radio controls. So the radio is highly programmable. I bought this thing from a company called Team Black Sheep. So they pre-programmed the to start up. Oh, good, the engine's off. That'll be handy. So here we're watching what the copter sees in terms of our controls in real time via the JavaScript configurator. And this is all a Chrome plugin. So if anyone knows anything about Chrome plugins, you could help program or enhance or whatever this Chrome plugin to figure out why it's stalling. Or maybe it's just my laptop and everyone else is fine. I have no idea. And all these little switches are configurable. So it's got, I don't know, 14 different little switches on it that are all configurable, both in the radio for what RF it sends out, but also via the vortex to control what those switches do. Yeah. So you can set these modes, like when you set, the flight control mode switch, I configured as this one over here. And so these little yellow dealies on the left are showing that the signal is very low right now on the flight control, which is auxiliary 1. And I click it up one position and the yellow jumps to the middle, into the middle of the band. And up one more position and it jumps to the far right. And so you stretch these bands in the JavaScript to tell the flight controller what auxiliary 1 does across all of these things. So it's a pretty cool UI. You just go in there and drag this stuff around and there you go. And you don't have to install any, well, you have to install a Chrome plugin, but that's it. So it also has a command line interface. So this launches the CLI, and I can type help and see all the commands that are available. And I haven't actually done any of this because I'm terrified that my copter won't fly anymore. And I really like flying it. I don't really like messing with it, so I try not to mess with that screen too much.
And a reset default.
There are.
Just like a reset to default on a router sometimes that works.
Yeah. So I assumed that when the radio, because there's two little antennas here, two little wire antennas on this thing, and I lost one, and I was like, and I was with 3 other guys, and I'm like, what do I do? They're like, oh, you're fine, you only need one because it picks up whichever signal is stronger. And I'm like, cool. So then I'm flying, and the radio talks to you when things go wrong, or when you program on other things, so like,
engine on.
So now we're armed, and I can fly around if I wasn't tethered.
Engine off.
I'm flying around in a park, and I'm making a slow hook because I'm going to do a Star Wars run on the Death Star because I like sweeping really low to the ground and then, coming straight at myself and then zipping over my head, and that scares the crap out of me because anyway. So I'm coming high over a tree, and the radio starts talking to me, and it says SSID low, SSID critical, SSID lost. I had no idea what that meant, and I'm like, oh crap, what is that? Because I can still see. I'm watching through the goggles and everything's fine, but I noticed that my controls aren't doing anything. It turns out that SSID means signal strength indicator, and so it had lost communication to control the copter. I can still see it. So now I'm watching in terror as the copter leaves the park I'm flying in and goes over a parking lot and a school and a street and a house with a huge swimming pool. It's the biggest swimming pool I'd ever seen. I was terrified. And another street, and then the video goes just fuzzy. No sound or nothing because it's hundreds of yards that way, right? Anyway, long story short, I'm up on a guy's roof with a shovel and a ladder and got it back down again. But when you talk about resetting to the defaults, it turns out the default is when your second antenna falls off because you didn't heat shrink it because no one told you to yet because you learned these things the hard way. When your second wire falls off, the helicopter by default shipped from Hong Kong just says, oh, well, I can't hear any more commands, so I guess I'll keep doing whatever I was doing before. And unfortunately, the batteries will last about 6 minutes, and this thing goes about 40 miles an hour. And so if you're like in an aggressive climb and the antenna falls off and it's got 6 minutes of battery left, it's gone. There's no way. You're never gonna find it again. So one of the things that is not the factory default is that I had to go in and muck with that so that it would not fly away. Yeah, so now if it loses radio, it throttle zeros, which is configurable both. Oh crap, don't do that. You're freaking me out. Did you see it move? Ah! It's configurable both in one of these. Oh, it resets every time you leave CLI information. That's what it was doing, I think. Oh, there we go. So this motor stop is pretty important. And then this fail-safe throttle is pretty important. And those are not the defaults. I don't know why. And you can do that either with a little tiny button on there, or you can do it via the software, and I've done it in both, etc. Yeah.
Did you get footage of that?
So I didn't yet have so the video that streams to your goggles in real time is really grainy, but it's real time, and that's the most important thing, and it's analog. So it ships with this little platform. It's got this squishy platform on the front, and you strap a GoPro or some other cheap, high def camera or whatever you've got, and the GoPro is what you upload. But I didn't have a GoPro at the time, so no, I don't have footage of my exciting adventure. There's also an a micro SD card straight in here. So if you want to record the video as it goes choppy as you get too far away, you can do that straight in the goggles too. Yeah. I think that was it. Yeah.
So, that looks pretty complex.
Yeah.
Do you know what you're doing in there yet? Or how did
No. No. I'm terrified of this. I don't like being in here at all. I went into the LED strip and I'm like, oh, cool, I can make it flash different colors and whatever. And I clicked around in here a little bit and got scared, and it wasn't doing anything. So I'm like, all right, because it's supposed to let you configure it through the goggles too, and it wasn't working. So I gave up. I have no idea what's going on here. Oh, right, but I was going to show, in case you don't believe me, here's the flight controller. So this is mostly C, some C++. If you want to actually go in there and mess with that. And then this is the configurator, which was that Chrome plugin we were just looking at. Yep. Yeah.
So, you have no idea what you're doing in there, but if you flow
None.
it so it works.
Oh yeah.
The configuration you have right now it works.
Yeah.
Is there a way to back that up and restore the particular configuration? Or do something and change it, get it changed?
Oops. Yeah. So I think that when I hit this backup button and it wrote a file to my desktop, theoretically, that means that I could hit the restore button and be back to where I was. I have not tried that yet. I am terrified that it will not fly. So I'm waiting to break it in a really serious way, and I'm waiting for parts, and then I'll totally mess with it because I can't fly it anyway. So yeah.
So I fly drones as well. I fly in Iris Plus with 3D robotics. And so I've been, learning technology as well. The piece that I have a question, I'm sure you've seen the drones that built the bridge. Did you see that?
Yeah, without a string.
Pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
So would they have, would the developers have trained the drone in order to complete that functionality? Would that have been Java or C++ or C# that they was? How would they have programmed that from your knowledge?
I don't know. I assume it's written in C. When performance is the most critical thing, a lot of times that stuff's written in C. But I don't actually know. The other thing they had to do is they had to rig that room. If you haven't seen the video, it's pretty slick. What happens is they've got two sets of trestles. What are they called? Painting when you're painting the side of the house. What do you stand on? Anyway, those things are on both sides of the room, and this little scaffolding, maybe, yeah, iron stick out, yeah, and they've got 6 drones, and the drones have a spool of threaded cabling, kind of something like you'd climb mountains with or something, and the drones all by themselves, they fly out there and they kind of dangle it over the piping, and then they loop it and loop it and loop it and loop it again, and then they fly in all these crazy configured patterns and make a bridge, and then the people walk across the bridge. So the drones with spools of thread and the correct anchors make a bridge, and the humans walk across it. They had to rig that room to death with sensors. Like they had to mount like all kinds of crazy additional sensors. It wasn't like doing visual stuff, but still, that was pretty cool.
And my second question has to do with what you actually see through the person viewing goggles. I've flown it through, but I haven't used the goggles. What flight data can you see while you're actually flying?
Telemetry recovered.
As opposed to the flight data that you receive from the front of your flight controller, or maybe that is, with any type of weather.
Yeah, so it's called the on-screen display, and what I'm told is happening is that the flight computer and the video signal comes in. It's overlaid with all kinds of digital information before it shoots it out analog via 5.8 gigahertz frequency. I don't remember what. I think this is 2.4 and this is 5.8 gigahertz. So anyone can watch, like when these races are going on, these guys are super fast. Everybody can watch with their goggles, their little TV sets with the external whatever. They can all watch the same information because the data is being overlaid visually into the field of vision there. So. Oh, and the goggles are corrected for my crappy vision, so I apologize. Anyone with good vision is not going to see well, especially through the left.
So you wear them without your glasses?
Yeah. So it comes with little inserts for like -1, -2 through -6. So my right eye is okay, my left eye is 3. Is it still working? Yeah.
How much did this setup run you?
I'm about.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm about 1,400 deep right now. So. Right? That's way better than a gambling addiction. Can you imagine how much damage I'd do with $1,400 worth of tequila? This is a much better deal. So on that Omaha FPV Twitter account, I've posted all the footage that I've done recently. And people that are way better than me, it's kind of boring watching me fly, but it's really exciting watching other people fly. And I post all the videos that they put on YouTube. There's a really active Facebook group, if you do Facebook groups. It's called Prowler FPV Facebook group.
How long have you been flying?
Like 3 weeks. I just got started. Oh, yeah, my
Start with something smaller.
my first, no. The scary thing is, these are the motors it came with, and one of the checkboxes during the ordering process was these motors. And I'm like, oh yeah, extra motors, because when I screw it up, I want to have extra motors. Turns out those are like professional grade racing motors that are like insanely bigger and more powerful than these.
Send you the wrong replacement ones.
No, the box I checked said these puny motors are not good enough for me, and yet this setup, when you gun it, it goes and it just disappears, and you're like, ah! Where's that copter go? And my first flight was about 1.2 seconds into a tree. I was sitting there going, okay, I've flown copters before, this will be fine. It turns out this is crazy powerful and really twitchy, and by default it comes in acrobatic mode. Most long distance surveillance copters, when you panic and you're like, oh, I don't like this, and you let go of the stick, like say you're going pretty fast and you let go, you're like, what those copters do is, okay, they were pitched this way and they're going really fast, and they go, you don't want to be moving anymore, okay, and so not only does it stop, but it brakes, right? So it's going this way and it goes, oh no, and then it comes back. This one does not do that. This one, when you pitch it, it's pitched until you correct it, right? So it has 2 modes that are gentler than that, but by default you're in acrobatic mode, so you can do really cool stuff. And it's not too bad once you get used to it, but it's not the easiest thing in the world to get used to. Oh, thank you. Any other questions, or should I try to fly this, or am I? Yeah. So I've already gone through 8, and I bought 16 more. And the ones I bought are yellow, and I'm surprised I lasted this long. So the ceiling's higher over there, right? I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't fly it. It's really cool outdoors. I'm not sure.
You can fly it year round, Chris. I'm just going to say, we've crashed some drones in this office.
Yeah. I don't know. It's most exciting in a big grassy field. But if anyone wants to see it fly, we could do that. Any other questions, or?
Awesome. Give it up for Jay.
Yay.